Are you looking for a beer that satisfies your thirst and love of country? Armed Forces Brewing Company brews beer for patriots. Celebrate freedom with every sip. Armed Forces Brewing Company. Freedom never tasted so good. The Eyes of Freedom. It has been to Chillicothe before. It'll be back again this weekend, all part of the Chillicothe VA Medical Center's 100th celebration of their centennial. We have with us Kelly Jones-Swenson. She is the new executive director. You've been executive director now for what, the last year or so?
Yep, exactly. May 1st was my 1 year anniversary.
Oh, well, happy anniversary to you. And
Thank you.
also, thank you for your service. You were in the U.S. Army. Give us a quick little background of your military service, and then we'll jump into what we're going to talk about here today.
Yeah, so I enlisted at the young age of 17 years old in 1986. It was kind of crazy at that time. I was in my career counselor's office and I saw this poster that said, "Do you need money for college?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." So I called that phone number and met a recruiter down at an Arby's and enlisted at 17 years old. And I was placed in a field artillery unit off Hudson and Howey Road, the Ohio Army National Guard. And crazy enough is that same unit, my grandmother worked there as a civilian employee at one point.
Is that right?
Yes.
And artillery, so I have to ask, how's your hearing?
Oh, you know what? It was fun. I'm probably one of the few females at that time during the 80s that got to fire the 105s and the 155s.
Wow.
So I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
But I stayed there for 4 years, and then they eliminated my slot with the field artillery unit. And I went over to the Ohio Military Academy, and I was an instructor with them, teaching leadership and PLDC and BNOC, and spent another 6 years doing that. And finally got out after 10 years of service.
Well, thank you for your service. And you were telling me before we started talking here that your father and your grandfather also served.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got history.
Yes, yep. As I mentioned, my father was a colonel at Fort Hays. So we would go down there when I was young and get on the Jeeps at that time, the Willies, and run around there. And yeah, so good memories of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that has brought you to this point now. And with your military background, it has to be extra special for you to be able to be a part of something so moving as the Eyes of Freedom.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and the fact that I was at Rickenbacker for that 6 years in their headquarters for Lima companies out there at Rickenbacker, there's just a little bit of that special connection.
And that special connection for Ross County is Aaron Reed. He was part of the group that did not come back from Iraq, but he and his fellow troop mates, they find themselves immortalized in wonderful paintings, and we have an opportunity to see that this weekend.
This Friday, and it's, we have two exhibits. We have an outdoor exhibit and an indoor exhibit. A lot of folks got to come see our outdoor at Millersport for a big Memorial Day event. And if you've not seen the indoor exhibit, you'd think the outdoor exhibit's really cool, but the indoor exhibit is really what you need to see. Just absolutely incredible. And it just evokes a lot of different emotions and different people. But at the end of the day, we're there not to just honor, the fallen of Lima Company, but to honor anyone who's answered our nation's call to serve.
You will want to bring a box of tissues as well, or a handkerchief, because it is so moving to see. And I was able to witness this set up indoors at the Chillicothe Elks about 10 years ago. And the booths set out, candles were lit. It was darkened in the area that we were looking at this, and it was just absolutely moving
Mm-hmm.
to hear the stories, read the stories, and see the boots. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, and we invite people to to take what's been placed in the boots and look at it and see what other people have left. We have the letter from Wesley David's mother, the Gold Star mom, on our exhibit that came home in his footlocker to his parents. When I do the school groups, typically just the older kids, I have one of the students read that letter. I mean, I enlisted when I was 17 years old. I read that. I wrote that letter. a similar letter. And, I asked these kids, these high schoolers who are in that same age, I said, think about if you were to write that letter, what would you say to your parents? And then think about how your parents would feel if they read that letter.
You were talking about some of the ties that even kids today have an opportunity to learn more about this. And some of those kids you visit with, they're going to be making decisions as to whether or not they would like to jump into the military as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, social media has such a, can be a positive impact on whether they decide, or negative, as you know. Me personally, I talk to one kid at a time. I always worry that these kids are going to go home and say, this Miss Kelly was trying to get me to enlist. But at the end of the day, they need to know that, who's going to protect our way of life, our freedoms, right? Who's going to protect our monuments and our communities, and our families. So I kind of put it out there, and but it's fun. It's important.
Yeah, certainly the greatest generation of World War II. They were coming out of well, the fall of the stock market and everything. They'd seen how things changed and how difficult it was. So many of them served in such a great way. Then through the Korean conflict and on into Vietnam and everything, it's been interesting to see how the military has been perpetuated, so to speak, especially in Hollywood. And not until Saving Private Ryan came out did we start to see the emotional ties for some of them. Um, and then even if you've never seen Taking Chance, uh, Kevin Bacon is in this movie. He's a Marine Corps veteran who has to escort bodies home, and he has to bring this private's body back, the remains. It it's the serious side of what we do, but not
Absolutely.
for that we wouldn't have the eyes of freedom. And to see those men who lost their lives protecting our freedoms.
Yeah. I did a quick video snip for R&L Carriers, who's our transportation provider. And, they just, you talk about such a blessing, because we wouldn't be able to do it without R&L Carriers. I mean, they just, on a handshake deal, take that exhibit anywhere and everywhere in the country for us. And they typically have a veteran driver that takes it. In fact, the driver on Friday will be a veteran driver who served, and they're just so proud to do it. And yeah, I mean, it's just so important, as you know, and they're committed to it too.
If you've never seen The Eyes of Freedom or don't really know the message, we'll have detailed information that you'll be able to find out. But we want you to come see it and experience it for yourself. It's been all over the country, and now it's right back here in our backyard. This Saturday, what time will you be ready to open the doors and allow people to see, and what time do you plan to close those doors?
So we will be on display from, I believe, 8 a.m. until I think 7 or 8 p.m. that night. We'll have the paintings there, the 9 foot by 6 foot paintings, and the boots that came home in the Foot Lockers from Iraq. Some kiosks that talk more about Lima Company in general, and then the deployment of Lima Company. And then we'll have Silent Battle that's there also, encouraging participants to leave a message on battle on a dog tag. um, I tell them, just, whether it's somebody who's lost their life to suicide, veteran suicide, struggling with mental health, they can put a message there to the troops, anything, but that those dog tags will travel all over the country with us.
And you will be there as well?
Absolutely, all day long.
Okay, so make sure you stop and talk to Kelly and find out more about, uh, well, the entire story and the recent story, things that they've experienced on their travels around Ohio. We appreciate your time that you've given to us here today. I mentioned Ohio and the other 49 states you've been to, too.
So
Except
you
for
should have
probably
said,
Hawaii. You've not been there yet, probably.
no, but I would be remiss without mentioning this to you. So when I came on board last year, I had learned very quickly that we'd not been to all the hometowns of our fallen. And I thought, we've been to almost 400 communities, events, Rock on the Range, the Army Navy game. How could we have not been to all of the hometowns of our fallen. So I created a campaign. It was launched in March called Mission Hometowns, and I have 8 communities left. So those that come out on Saturday can talk to me on how they can help facilitate that. I am actually checking off the most difficult one, and that is Grant Frazier from Anchorage, Alaska. So that was the hardest one, and I don't have completely all the funding for that in place, but I have the transportation. The Air Force or the Air Force base up there will be with the Thunderbirds in a hangar up there. The Eyes of Freedom exhibit will be going to the high school of Grant Frazier. They have an auditorium up there named after him. And then we're going to be over at the Alaskan Airlines Center next to University of Alaska, who has 900 veteran enrolled students. So I've got that one checked off, and I just need help getting to 8 other communities to honor those Gold Star families because it's so incredibly important to me.
Well, and the amazing thing about this is while family and friends of the fallen have heard about Eyes of Freedom, if they've not seen it, you're bringing it to them in their backyard. And an extra special step for this mission. So thank you for making sure that happens.
Yep, absolutely. And we appreciate you guys' support and you bringing us out there.
Well, thank you. And we will stop over and see you this weekend, if not Friday, Saturday. Friday, they're setting up. I might get a special step in there.
But, perfect. Anyone wants to help us, 3:00. I know I'm going to have a wrestling team there.
Very good. Well, Kelly, thank you again for your service, and thank you again for helping us here today. Kelly Jones-Swenson with the Eyes of Freedom.
All right. Thanks so much.